continue the second part of this session. And this is dedicated specifically to the launch of the book, The Eötvös Experiments in its historical framework. And for this aim, I would like to invite two experts who are involved in this producing of this book. The first is Professor Jenő Solyom, and he's here. Yes, please. He's a president of the Eötvös Loran Physical Society and the professor emeritus of the Budapest University, Eötvös University. And also Professor Gabor David. He's here also, yeah, wonderful. He's a professor of the Stony Brook University and the editor of the book. And please take a seat. You, yes. And now, Jenő Solyom will give a presentation.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure to be here and to present to you these two books. It is the same book, one in English, the other in Hungarian. And the title is The Eötvös Experiment in its Historical Context. Now, we have heard from Professor Völgyesi that one of the big problems in physics was the proportionality of inertial and gravitational mass. As shown to you, we have two concepts in Newtonian physics. For the mass, in Newton's second law of dynamics, we have the so-called inertial mass, and in gravitation, we have the same mass or a different mass, depends on your taste. Newton himself assumed that the two masses are the same. So the mass that is effective in gravitation is the same as the mass that you feel when you do a dynamic experiment, the inertial mass. He assumed that the two masses are the same, but it was an assumption, and he himself tried to make experiments to see whether his theory works. And as you know, you have to measure the free fall, the acceleration of free fall. And of course, one possibility is to measure the time the pendulum makes a swing, and he did these measurements and found that, in fact, to the precision, he could make experiments. The two are the same. Now, the big invention of Eötvös in this field was to use, instead of the pendulum, where you have to measure time, which he couldn't measure to that good accuracy, to use the Coulomb balance, or better, the modified Eötvös balance, because if the two masses are different, then you will see a rotation of the balance, and you can measure this difference. That was what Professor Völgyesi told to you. Now, he was interested in this problem, and his first paper was written in 1890. In fact, he gave a presentation here at the Academy in 1889 about this proportionality, and he has shown that to the accuracy he would make the experiment. The two masses are proportional, independent. The ratio is independent of the material constitution. So he presented this paper in 1890, and of course this was known to most people in physics, and especially we have to say that Einstein himself was aware of this result, and we have some proof for that. Namely, Einstein wrote a letter to Eötvös in 1918 on a completely different matter. He asked his opinion about how to fill a position in Potsdam, and he turned to Eötvös as the biggest expert in this field, and Eötvös gave his advice. And in the second letter, when he thanked Eötvös for his advice, he wrote the following sentence: "I do not want to let this exchange of letters pass, though without expressing to you my gratitude for the advancement that our knowledge of the identity of gravitational inertial mass has made through your investigations." So that the result of Eötvös was known, and another proof for that is that when the Benecke Prize Foundation in Göttingen wrote out some questioned how to measure better the proportionality of the two masses, they referred to Eötvös' work. In fact, you see Eötvös' name with misspelled here. So they referred to Eötvös' work, asking people to improve upon Eötvös' measurements. And this was in 1906, and the only paper that came in to this prize was the work by Eötvös and his co-workers, where they have shown to a much better accuracy that the two masses are proportional. So in 1909, the prize was given to Eötvös and his co-workers, and the conclusion of the report said the following: nevertheless, there are some questions, but nevertheless, the experiments yielded extremely valuable results which can serve as a basis for further theoretical considerations concerning the extraordinarily extensive validity of Newton's theorem, namely the proportionality of the two masses. So that was in 1909, but fortunately, we do not have the paper that was sent to the Benecke Prize Foundation, so we do not know exactly what Einstein submitted at that time. He died in 1919, and his co-workers, Pekar and Fekete, then completed the work, and the paper was published in 1922, which says that his contribution to the law of proportionality of inertial and gravitational mass. So we had the published version of the work from 1920, and that was then the basis for further considerations. And we have heard Fischbach and co-workers took up this conclusion already said that this is a basis for further considerations. That was really the basis for Fischbach and company, who tried to reanalyze the Eötvös experiment and then came up with the conclusion that there might be a fifth force, and the new experiments now would try to check whether really there is a fifth force or none. That paper is really basis for further considerations. But we only have we had only this published version until a long time, because, as I mentioned, the Benecke Prize paper was not found. But fortunately, a few years ago, at the Eötvös Geophysical Institute, which unfortunately doesn't bear the name of Eötvös anymore. But anyway, in this institute, Zoltán Szabó has found the original manuscript of Eötvös that he prepared during the years between 1906 and 1909, when they prepared the Benecke paper, and this manuscript was found. And what this book contains is the copy of the original Eötvös manuscript, and because it was a handwritten thing, one had to somehow find out what really Eötvös wrote. It was not a simple thing. It was written in German, and the next speaker, Gábor, will speak about what challenges it meant to decipher what Eötvös really wrote in this manuscript. And then this book contains, besides the original, the copy of this paper, also a transcription of the paper in German and also in English or in Hungarian in the two different volumes. So fortunately, now we have a version, an original version of Eötvös, which at some places contains more than what has been published. At some places it contains less than what has been published, and the real work was the challenge to make a combination of the two, and we will hear about that, what all that meant. Now, at least now we have this, and this was thought to be so important that we have this manuscript of Eötvös that the UNESCO in 2015 included this manuscript with two other papers on the memory of the World International Register. And we are happy now that we have available this manuscript, and we will hear about the next speech, what all that meant, what challenges it meant to figure out what really Eötvös wanted at this point. So that's what we will have, and I'm now giving the floor to Gábor to say a few words how he worked on that problem.